Welcome to the Pink Lady Against Scammers podcast. Hello, everybody. As you've heard me talk in the past, I talked about bringing in guest co-hosts to be a part of my podcast. So today I have my first guest co-host, and you probably hear me talk about her often. I met her on TikTok a year ago. She goes by ID Princess 56, and her name is Yvette. Welcome, Yvette.
Well, thank you for having me here, Patsy. It's been an honor to you be asking me to be your co-host. And I was like, yes, of course, I'll be there. Absolutely.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Hopefully, this will be the first of many times that you'll get to join me.
Hmm.
Cool.
Definitely.
Awesome. So today, my guest is Jimanekia. I messed it up. I'm so sorry.
Jimanekia Eborn.
I even wrote it down. That's worded it out. She is a queer sexual assault and trauma expert. And so I'm going to have her tell a little bit about herself. And then Yvette and I, if we have any questions, we're going to fire away. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So there's so much. That's why I asked to like focus on one thing.
Whatever
I
you
will
want.
say that I have become, I'm gonna start this over because I don't like this beginning.
That's okay.
So my name is Jimanekia Eborn. I identify as a trauma companion, and we will get more into why I say a companion versus a coach. I'm not a fan of the word coach specifically for myself. So my background is mental health. I am a child of trauma. My mother was murdered in front of me when I was a child. I was raised by by her parents, which were my grandparents. Throughout my life, I have always been a reader, an educated little human. I always wanted to be in the library. I didn't want to be bothered with other kids because children. Um, and through that, my family has always supported me and given me information over the time. I wanted to become a detective because I wanted to help women. I wanted to help domestic violence survivors. And as television makes it look, there's only one way to do it, and that's become a cop. I am not a fan of the police. I believe and know that they were created because of slavery and they still act the same way. And so that's a whole nother conversation. When I was 21, I was raped. I always say that I was raped versus I was sexually assaulted. Sexual assault is an umbrella and rape is underneath it, which is where I will also say that I've been raped once that I can account for, but because of the body that I am in, I've been sexually assaulted more times than I can account for because people like to put their hands on people without consent. Um, Through this work, I have worked in many mental health facilities, working with infants to the elderly. Something that I kept noticing was the through line of sexual assault. After I was assaulted, I got kicked out of school, changed my major to psychology, had a spin of alcohol. By 26, I got burnt out and decided to help myself. And through that way, I went spiritual versus psychological. I needed to get back into my body to figure things out. And then through that, I decided while I was working through psychology, I wanted to have a job that was ever growing, ever evolving. And I found sex. My mom was like, oh God. And I said, oh, we'll figure out what that looks like. And what it looked like was figuring out what sexuality education was happening around me, which fun fact, there's not a good amount of good sexual education for any of us. And what I thought was missing was, the trauma conversations within sex ed as well. And most of us have experienced some type of trauma, so why weren't we talking about it? And I do know that there were other people talking about it, but for me, I thought things were missing. As an educator, I don't think we always need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's real chaotic. Just look and see what you think is missing. Add who you are. You will be great for someone. I am not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm glad I'm not. I shouldn't be. There is someone for everyone. And so throughout this time, I have experienced burnout. I've experienced happiness. I've had highs, I've had lows, and my work has changed over the years. And so the Jimanekia project was created in 2018, which is where I have taught, I have spoken, I have traveled the world speaking at conferences and colleges, and I have created different classes. I'm currently reworking all of my digital content and finally creating a class called How to Date a Survivor, because I think that's so important When,
Yeah.
we are dating individuals, we should also meet them where they are. And for me, it's back in work. If I can help someone show up to be a better partner, I'm helping survivors in that regard. I co-own an intimacy coordination company where we train intimacy coordinators for film and media called Cintima. We are one of the only currently predominantly online programs that is SAG accredited. So that's always super amazing. I also work with my friend Lenore Claire. We work with true crime and stalking survivors. We work with them behind the scenes, on sets. You see those documentaries and people are retelling their stories. We know that that's really hard. And there's a lot of things that come up. So having someone there is truly, truly important. And outside of that, I also consult specifically just for trauma things. And now this is kind of combining all of that work together, which is super exciting. And last but not least, I am someone that now works in professional wrestling. No, she doesn't wrestle. That's not in my bag. But I am a part of the mental health department. And when people ask, well, what do they need help with? And I'm like, are they not regular people with jobs? Like, these are
Yeah.
regular people. They just have different jobs. And so, between all of that, I also have a nonprofit called Tending the Garden, where we support marginalized sexual assault survivors. And that was created because, again, everything I create has been because I didn't see it and I thought I needed it. Every time I would go to look up information after being sexually assaulted, it was a bunch of thin white women. Fun fact, I am not a thin white woman, never have been, never will be. So none of it ever spoke to me. I didn't see anyone that looked like me in the flyers. I didn't have conversations of consideration. And so I wanted to create that for someone else. And so right now we are currently building an online community space. So survivors can have support groups, they can have message boards, they can have classes. So we're working on building that in like a monthly membership kind of way that has a sliding scale for different things that, maybe you want to opt into. Maybe you're like, I want to do support groups. I don't care about classes. And maybe that's a different level. And so that will be done, crossing fingers, by the beginning of 2025 to be able to present that type of community for folks. And I think that's all the things I'm doing today.
That's fascinating. I have to say one thing when you mentioned professional wrestlers. I was a fan of wrestling in the 80s, so that's like
Sure.
the Von Erich family and all them. I
Sure.
went and saw the movie about the Von Erichs. I
Hmm.
think they could have used you. They always felt like they had a family curse. I mean, there's only one of the five brothers left, Kevin. They just had, well, they suspect David was drug overdose. Kerry killed himself. Mike killed himself. I don't remember what happened to Chris, but Kevin's the only one left. So when you said professional wrestling, you hit
Hmm.
I like the older
Yes. And
wrestling.
listen, here's the thing. If you want to see Kevin, Kevin's on the television at my company these days with the younger Von Erichs. They are on AEW. Look at me plugging the company. They are on AEW right now. If you want to see what she's talking about, they do exist.
Yeah, no, I actually had the opportunity once to see all three brothers together, Kevin, David, and Carrie. Not in the normal venue. They had this at the bigger venue. I managed to drag my friend's little brother down, sat close to the ring, took a ton of pictures, because that was a big thing because the three didn't wrestle together all that often in St.
Sure.
Louis. And St. Louis at that time was a hotbed for wrestling. It's not so much anymore, but yeah, so everybody, AEW.
That's nice. So right now, pretty much, if you're supporting those people that don't have a voice because they are afraid to come out and say, "This is what happened to me. This is the fear that I have to experience my body or believe in somebody else." So you give it that support and pretty much psychological training to come back to be kind of normal, correct?
Um, Kind of. So this takes me back to what I said earlier is I'm not a coach. I think that coaches direct people to do things. I am not a
Mhm.
coach. I don't believe that any survivor should be directed to do anything because it hinders what they need. I always say that I am a trauma companion, that I walk beside you, that we share information back and forth because you are the person that would know. And
Mhm.
I always try to take the idea of healing off of a pedestal. I think it's really harmful for folks if we're constantly looking to the left or if we're constantly looking to the right to see what
Right.
works for other people. And it's like, what do you need? Right. And the idea of, well, I haven't healed yet, I think it's kind of shitty. I think it slows people down versus like, what do you need right now? Where are you today? Because as we know, you could be having the best day on Wednesday. You wake up on Thursday and you're like, I wish people would stop talking to me. Right. And
Right.
so every day is so different. And so I like to support people by getting to the understanding of what's happening to them. It's kind of like the ways that I went to school in Western ideas. And so my background is marriage and family therapy, although I am not licensed because of the work that I do. My
Mhm.
background is also health psychology, which is still very Western ideas. But what I liked about health psychology is we look at people as a whole. When Western ideas, we look at the medical conditions and then the brains. Why?
Mhm.
We are one person. And so Eastern medicine goes, okay, so you have these things that are happening. What is the root cause of it? That's what I like to look at versus oftentimes, for me, this is my opinion, Western medicine goes, what's happening? Take this pill, let's forget about it. It
Right.
doesn't change things. It just numbs them so we can keep going.
It's like I drink alcohol to numb that
Sure.
moment, forget, and but next day you're gonna wake up not only with the same problem, but with a hangover. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So is I totally understand. I agree with that because people don't know this, but I'm a victim of domestic violence, and I move away from East Coast because the person that I love was very verbally, physically, and mentally abused with me.
Sure.
You know, got to the point that they found me in the floor, knocked out, blood, broken bones, and everything. And that is the only way they took me out to the hospital, but they put me away from East Coast, and now I live in West Coast, you know, and I had to do tons of things in my life to recover myself back. I mean, from the name change, social security change, everything,
Mm,
you know, and to relearn to who I am and how I am. Even that they change name and identification, I still be the same person.
sure.
And a lot of people don't see that like it's a healing for you, you know. Instead, they go to a therapy and oh, here you have this pill for the morning, the blue is for the noon, and the purple is for the night, and that don't help because you still have the same thing, and you're afraid to tell like a companion to tell them how you feel. Well, today is a good day, or tomorrow is horrible, or things like that. People still they have the enigma or the taboo to talk about it, you know, and that's why they go to a doctor. They have the license to prescribe medication. Instead, they have somebody like you. And oh my God, I wish I knew you long time ago, you know, because that would have helped me more and more. I healed myself. I was looking at spiritual heal, you know, and it was very hard, but I'm here, you know, and I survived. And
So
I wish a
glad.
lot of people, yes, you know what? I wish a lot of people can know more about you and your resources and your benefit to have a companion instead their therapy, you know?
Sure. Sure. And I think there's the idea of finding who works for you and like
Hmm.
finding what you need. I was talking about this with someone yesterday. I think oftentimes as survivors, because there is no certain thing or a certain path, we kind of just throw everything at it. So we don't actually know what works for us. And my
Hmm.
advice for folks is, try something and give it at least 30 days. Then if that doesn't work for you, then try something else. But if you're like, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing Pilates, I'm taking these vitamins, I'm in therapy, I'm doing a backflip, like what the fuck's working? You've done 20 things. So like, how do you
Exactly.
build a tool set that you know works for you if you're just doing everything? So the idea of slowing down and being patient is also really hard. as you're like, I don't want to feel like this. How do I not
Mm-hmm.
feel like this faster? And so
Yeah.
I totally hear you on like it's a process. And folks
Mm-hmm.
think, well, you're out of that situation now. Aren't you better? No, fuck no. This is
No.
just the start for your body to start being able to feel safe to then start to navigate the rest of it.
Correct. Correct. I mean, it. I wish this. I'm going to share your website, and I'm going to promote more this because it's a lot of not only domestic violence victims, but we have Patsy and I. We work with a lot of victims of romantic scams. This is not a physical damage. This is more emotional damage, and they don't know how to let it go
Sure.
to the scammer because the scammer pig butchering, love bombing, constantly telling that they don't want to tell somebody else. They treated the words that they coming out of this scammer's mouth and they never had that before. They are creating more damage emotionally on the
Hmm.
heart than being physical, and sometimes go to the point, and Patsy can agree this with me, they go to the point that they unalive themselves because they cannot deal with it. And we're dealing with this kind of mentally and emotional damage on a lot of victims because not only they lost everything, they lost something that they was thinking that was real.
And I'm very big, I know what that is, on empowering women and make them feel like you're something.
Hmm.
My what mine is deals more with comedy. I always laughter's the best medicine for me. And I like to do silly things. I talk to scammers live on my TikTok lives, and then I post the videos on YouTube and on TikTok. And and I even talk to some ladies, who've been scammed, and I always tell them, look, there's three things. I'm a good listener. I will make you laugh. And at the end, I'm going to remind you you're an awesome person. And, take what you've learned and help somebody else. But I mean, everybody's different, but it's like, do your best not to let it get you down. Move on, come to me for laughter, and then just try to help somebody else because you know the game now.
Yeah, we're trying to empower the women that they are not alone. That this we all here and we can listen to you. If you don't have nobody, send me a message in the middle of the night. Probably I wake up and I can reply to you and tell you things, just because somebody hurt you emotionally and mentally, don't mean that that is the end of the world. You know, you need to learn to love yourself to be able to love somebody else. And most of the time, people don't understand that because they grew up with you need to be with a man. You need to let them to take care of you. What you did that they react the way we react, things like that. That is how we grew up. We grew up with the mentality the man is the one that's gonna take care of you. And I try to keep telling the people, you don't need to have a partner or a man in your life to be yourself and be successful. And take time. I had a victim 2 years ago. She lost everything to the point that she was living in the car. Okay, she loved the ranch, she loved the horses, the house, and their kids don't even know that she lost all that because she sold everything to be able to bring that man that was talking with her here to America to be together and be happy. And the manipulation that some people have to victims is so hard that it's very hard to break them out of that habit, And actually now she own a house again. She don't own the ranch, but she works in a ranch, taking care of horses, and she's taking care of herself. So, I mean, it's not that much that I was able to do for her, but listening to her all the time and encourage her to be strong and I tell you, if you want to cry, you cry. If you want to scream, you scream. But be yourself today. Don't expect everybody to think that you're gonna be strong the whole entire time because we're human. We have emotions and we need to show that to yourself that you are vulnerable and you can be able to face the the the, the obstacles and challenge in life, you know?
Well said. Well said. Uh, do you want to share all your like websites and stuff? And when you
Sure,
get a chance, email them to me because, like Yvette, I'm going to put it out on all my social media. When I
sure. I
post the
don't,
podcast, I
sure.
list
Yeah.
everything.
I don't know what Steve has sent you, but if not, get it from Steve.
Okay.
Steve's got all the things, but you can find me on all the social medias under Jimanekia, Jimanekia. My personal website is traumaqueen.love. Cintima is Cintima, Cintima.co. Tending the Garden is tendingthegarden.love. And you can also find them on Instagram. I don't know, I was confused. At tending the garden dot for like the number dot SAS, tending the garden for sexual assault survivors. And Cintima is Cintima.co. And then on my website, you can see all the things. We are currently, if you go on any of my website links, we're currently doing a survey for sexual assault survivors because we want to build a community that people actually want. I hate when people build things and it's like, well, you should be grateful. And it's like, but you didn't ask. And so I want to
Hmm.
ask survivors, what they want. So please also do that survey. But yeah, that's where you can find me on all the things.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank
That's
you so
wonderful.
much. I when I got the email from Steve and I was reading all this, I'm like, oh my God, this is very interesting. It's needed, So thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Of
Yvette, you were a
Oh,
fabulous co-host.
oh, but thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that I was able to be here for you. And nice to meet you. It's been a pleasure to hear all the successful stuff that you've been doing. And I'm looking forward to follow you. And if I have people that for any reason need your help, I'm gonna send it to your website.
Sure.
Sounds
Thank you.
good. Well, thank you so much. So, everybody, that's the end of this episode. You can follow me on TikTok, Pink Lady Against Scammers. I am the one with 29,000 followers. There are clones in there pretending to be me. Don't fall for them.
How dare
Yeah,
they?
yeah. And
Peasant.
yes. And then, of course, you can see all my videos on YouTube. It's Patsy3919. And of course, my website, pinkladyaGainstScammers.com. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.